Hi everyone, my name's Anthony Cummins and welcome to this. I presume by clicking on this video you're actually interested in Japanese houses. So what I'm doing today is I'm working with Tuttle, the publishing company, and they've asked me to review one of their books. Now today I'm going to review Japan Home and its inspirational design ideas. Now the book is, it's about, let me just get the pages for you, it's about 144 pages long. This one's in hardback. It comes with a dust jacket and it comes with a beautiful silver cover if you get this edition. But not only is it hardback, which is superb, it is full colour. And it is a design book, if you know what I mean. It is an internal design, but it has loads of colour pictures. I mean, they've got an award-winning photographer in this, and you go through many different types of Japanese houses. And as we go through this video, I'm going to show you some of these photographs. So let's have a look at the contents of the book. So first of all, what does it tell us about the Japanese house? It tells us that the original word for the Japanese house is actually house and garden together. So it means the house and garden, the complex area. Now, I read something years ago that made me really think about Japanese architecture, and it was saying that in the Sengoku period, that's the warring periods, the 1500s and before, there was lots of darker houses, lots of darker walls, blacker walls, lots of polished wooden floors, and it was only in the period of peace, when they had a bit more time, that they started to whitewash everything, and they started to put white, or you know, the very light and pale tatami mats down, and there was lots more open space, and you know, how can I say this, lighter, brighter world. Now I don't know how true that is, because I've not done a survey on these houses, but I do like that idea, and the reason I'm saying this is because it says that the use of gold in Japanese architecture and white is to reflect the light around. So the reason that many things have white walls inside is to get this light, and get as much light into the building as possible, because they're really quite dark houses. They had massive thatch, they didn't have like Western style windows, if you will, so there's a lot of need to get light around the place. Now, to carry on from this though, it says, you know, the Japanese sliding doors, the shoji, they actually, it says, diffuse the light. So instead, because Japan's got really bright, harsh light, the reason they have the paper doors, the paint on the wall, is to diffuse that light, to make it a little bit more subtle inside, instead of it just being an open, you know, because obviously it doesn't insulate anything, it's paper, you know, it doesn't really do anything there. But what it does, it stops the light being too harsh on the interior. Something that I found interesting in this book is it said that the windows of a Japanese house, or of a proper one, or somebody's thought about the build, should frame the outside. So when you sit inside, you look at a window and you can see that it frames nature, so that when you look outside, the landscape outside should be landscaped in such a way that it makes a nice moving real picture. A bit Harry Potter style, so where you see the wind moving the trees, you should see it in a frame-like view. Now, movable walls inside. We've all seen in Japanese houses, you can move the walls along, you can slide them up and down, you can take them out. And this idea, I think, is a great idea. It means that your space inside is not set. You can start to change the things inside, which again, I think is really interesting, because you can, I don't really know much, or I've never seen many architectural structures where you can internally change everything just by moving these walls. So it's quite cool. Now, when you move through to the entrance of the house, now this is where, for my followers, the ninja stuff comes in. When we read the old ninja manuals that we've produced, and they're in English now, when you read those, you find that it gives you the Japanese terms for like the entrance of the house. When you go into the entrance, you should then move to the right, and you'll see the stables are there where they keep, like, you know, the horse is warm and things like that, so it's inside the house complex. That's really interesting for me, because when you see the layout of this book, and when you see the layout of the house in this book, and I've gone to the library and looked at other layouts, you can start to understand when the Bansen Shukai Ninja Manual says going through this, turn up this way, move up this stairs, you can see it going around, and you're like, ah, okay, so that's what they mean. Because at first when they they said stables, I thought they meant some separate building far away, the stables, and it's not. When you go in, so a lot of the stables were originally kept in the medieval, inside the house. Obviously not in the living place, but like in the West, they had a stable at the end of the house to keep, you know, the animals in. And there's that type of information that comes through, which is superb. I love that. Now the getabako, this is the shoe cupboard. You know, obviously in Japan you have to take your shoes off. And if you've never been to Japan, then you have to take your shoes off twice in a house. You take your shoes off when you go in the house and you put slippers on. Then when you go to the bathroom, you actually take your slippers off and put bathroom slippers on and go to the bathroom, then come out, reverse the slippers, then you reverse as you go out the door. It's a right palaver, but it's quite nice. But when you come back to England or America, I suppose, you feel going to a house with your shoes is like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to put my foot down inside somebody's house with a shoe on. So, but of course, that's the shoe cupboard there, which doesn't seem important in the West, but it's very important in Japan. You've got to have one of those ready for people's shoes. Now the low table in Japan, we all know this, the idea of a very, very low table, and everybody sits around. And what is nice in Japan is you sometimes get these tables have little dips underneath them in the floor where you put your feet inside and you can put a blanket that's attached to the table, and they have a heater underneath, or sometimes coal, charcoal burning, and it's really nice and warm. And I've sat in Japan with these around you, and it's definitely a cool feeling. But of course it hurts your legs sitting cross-legged for a long amount of time, unless you've got one of those little dips in the floor, which is really nice. So if you get to Japan, make sure you try and get there in winter as well, if you do a second trip, and put the duvet over you and sit down and have some nice nabe, which is their stew at winter, which is really, really nice to do. Something I did see in this book, which I never knew about, which always made me think, is they scattered shelves. And these are the shelves that are like bit there, and a bit up. And I really like these. Obviously in the West we have shelves in a row and they come in columns, you know, because we're very, very, very like that from our times. But in Japan they shift them and move them over, which I thought was really, really nice. And I just like the idea. I've never even thought about that. I've seen them, of course, but I've never thought about the idea of you could do it in your own house, you scatter the shelves along. I'll probably stick with unified columns, I think. But what would you do? Put the comments below. What would you do? Which shelves would you have? The book then goes on to the outside of the house. It talks about how you should deal with the walk up to the tea room, how you should deal with the tea room. But it gave me a lovely piece of information, and I really, really enjoyed this. It says when you go into a tea room, you have to crouch right down and go into the tea room. And this is to stop people coming in with swords. They have to take their swords off outside. Now, I do know through our research and reading the medieval manuals that they say, yeah, you should never have your katana in there, and you even take your wakizashi off your short sword for going into a tea room. It's the one place you should really never have your swords on you, or hidden daggers. But I'm sure they did have their hidden daggers on them, but they definitely didn't have a display of external weaponry on their bodies. They would take them off so they could have tea inside. The kettle and the hook. This is really, really Japanese, isn't it? Where you get this long, beautiful hook and the kettle hanging on and it bubbling away. Now again, in Japan, I've actually done this. It's really, really nice. The good thing about this book for me is the fact that I've done these things and I've been to these places. So would I recommend the book? Absolutely, I would say. If you like ninjutsu, which is probably why you're on my channel, if you like samurai warfare, then it gives you a better understanding of a Japanese house, and it gives you all the terminology, it gives you the translation, and it tells you, a bit about their history. Of course, it is an interior design book, so its focus is about moving your house to be like this, but it depends how you read it. If you want to read it from the point of view of a historian or a military historian, then you can at least see the different elements of the Japanese house, and you can match it to the original ninja manuals we've published in English. If you're just interested in Japan, it's perfect, it's beautiful colour. I normally like to say something negative about books because, to give a balanced review, but in all honesty, this book is pretty much what you expect it to be, and more. It's an interior design book, so it's not about military, but it's got all the nice terminology in. It's full colour, it's hardback, it's well made, the pictures are beautiful, so it's excellent. So the only fault I would say is not in the book, it's in what it leaves. Now, I've lived in Japan for 5 years of my life overall, and I'll tell you one thing, Japanese houses don't look like that. Now, it's the same as Japanese people reading a book on manor houses, English manor houses or English country cottages. We in England all wish we lived in an English country cottage, but you probably need to be in a very higher bracket of pay to be in an English country cottage nowadays. And I've been to lots of these old Japanese houses, and I've spoke to people who used to go to their grandmother's house who was like that. And what you find is they're correct, the book is correct, all those little bits are there, but the working family is not there. So back in the day when it was a farm, it was dirty, they had rope everywhere and farm tools mixed up, and even if they had a small farm, just a lot more of land, there's always farm tools, muddy clogs. They said the smell of smoke and fire. So what you get in these more modern representations of traditional houses is a very clean, modern usage, and it was only probably the upper aristocracy who had it like this. In Japan, what surprised me the most is that people clutter everything. In Japan, they like to hoard. Japan is famous for collecting cards, collecting toys, collecting this memorabilia. Basically, you go into someone's house, it's just packed with stuff, collecting books. This idea that the Japanese live in this zen-like, peaceful, architectural dream world is totally rubbish. Japan is like this. And when you go to the countryside, it's dirty. And I don't mean dirty bad, I mean like, countryside dirty is in like wood, smoke, burnt wood, whatever they've been using, farm tools. So it is a little bit fanciful in that it leads you to believe the Japanese used to live like this, and they didn't. But what it does do is give you a great insight into all the technical terms you need for old houses. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you get the book. I personally have got a copy now, and I think it's great. It's going to get pride of place, and I'm probably going to go and buy more books on architecture because it's led me down the route of, oh, that was interesting. Now, there is a lot more in that book. I've only gone through about half of it here with you because I don't want to, spoil it for you. But yeah, get it, leave a review on Amazon for the people so that they get some good reviews. And if you know anybody who likes Japanese architecture, Japanese houses, spread it around. Okay, my name's Anthony Cummins. You can visit my webpage by the links below, or you can visit Tuttle's webpage, which is also in the links below. And we're both here making these videos to try and push Japanese culture and get everybody as interested as they can be in ancient Japanese ways. Thank you very much.